the Gloving Paradigm, where I'm your host, Peter, aka LPD Dubuque, and this week, it's going to be a very, very interesting week, because as you guys can probably tell with the formatting of how I'm doing this episode, brought back out the old uniform again, because I haven't done any educational content like this in a while. And you know what, it's always good to go back to your roots, to go back to how you did things in the beginning, to really see how things change. But you know what, I liked this, I've always enjoyed doing this style content, so why not come back to it every now and then? So what is it this week that I want to cover? Well, you guys know I'm a huge fan of things like color theory and programming theory and things of that nature. Well, we're going to go right back into color theory because I haven't done an episode like this in a while. Don't know why it took me so long to do anything on this particular subject matter, but you know what? When I come back to it, it's always a good refresher course for me. So, the new subject within color theory that we're going to be talking about now is triad scheme, or the triad configuration, whatever word you want to use. A lot of people like using different words. I don't really care. As long as we're all on the same page, all that matters to me.
Right, yeah, got it.
So, what is the triad scheme, basically? Well, the simplest definition I can pretty much compile together is that it's a combination of three colors that are equidistant from each other on the color wheel, producing a high contrast effect while also preserving the harmony. Basically meaning that it makes the composition look very much more vibrant even when you're using pale or undersaturated colors. So, if you're looking at my screen right now, you'll see that there's this lovely little color wheel and you'll see this lovely little triangle in it. That is basically the method in which how this scheme works. Now, how does this operate? Well, once you have the triangle inside your wheel, and you just turn your wheel, where the points hit on that wheel, those are your equidistant colors, therefore that is your triad color scheme. Why is this very important to know? Well, to some people, they really like coming up with new color themes and things of that nature, but sometimes don't know where to start. They don't know what's a good way to come up with a new color set. Well, here's a good way. This is a very common way to do this when it comes to three colors instead of just two. Now, if you want to know a really good, easy way to do two color configurations, go check out my little playlist right here on color theory. There's one in there on complementary colors, which are colors that are equally distant on the color wheel itself. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail on that in this episode because I already did it in a previous episode. Go check it out. It's really great. Other reason why a lot of people like doing this is because they want to have a lot of colors without them being washed out on each other, if that makes any sense. So, like it was stated here, that it keeps them equally vibrant and causes them to look more vibrant even when you use pale or unsaturated colors like pastels, for example. These do help. A very infamous color set that is on a bulb that a lot of people seek is called the triple C's, which if you don't know what triple C's mean in this context, it means cream, coral, cyan. Now, this is a grand, to me at least, a very grand example of what is undersaturated colors, which yes, cream, coral, and cyan are very rather undersaturated colors, but when you put them together and you use them in the three color setting, they're extremely vibrant. You can very tell which one's coral, which one's cream, and which one is cyan. This is what we are trying to achieve when it comes to our color configurations in this scheme, okay? So, when we're looking at this, and we're looking at color theory when it comes to gloving, we gotta remember which theory we're using. In this case, since we're using light, we're using additive color theory. So what are the what's like the default setups that you would consider this triad scheme? Well, red, green, blue are perfect. They're equally distant from each other in terms of this color theory. Not only that, these are the primary colors as it is. So most of the time, when it comes to color theory, your primary colors are going to be that little setup, basic building block thing. Definitely keep that in mind. The other thing you need to understand is that when you come to a color wheel, it's definitely going to be dictated by which theory you're using. Again, additive color theory is what we're going to use here. But I'm going to state this right now. Because gloving uses additive color theory to configure and create the colors that it uses, does not mean you can't use other forms of color theory to come up with color sets. Okay? These are methods. These are graphs, maps, I guess. You know, these are roadmaps to how you can come up with color sets. Okay, so something that I always want to point out, because a lot of people are like, well, why can't I just use red, yellow, blue as my primary colors? You can, because that is traditional color theory. If you use traditional color theory as your method to come up with color sets, have fun, go nuts. It's exactly why it's there. But to some people who kind of want to stick to the mentality of what theory that they're using when it comes to the equipment that they're using, sometimes a lot of people just like to stick with additive color theory. And it makes sense, because once you start to understand how that works, it kind of lends credence to how you configure your lights, especially when it comes to color configuration. You know, that's why I like putting secondary colors in between the two primary colors that make them, because it blends a lot better. That's just something that I've come to learn over time. Now, when it comes to bulbs, that is a different story, but again, I have plenty of episodes. Wherever I have, it's going to be right here. Go check it out. Now, something I also want to point out that I know some people are going to ask, but color blending and tint control is a completely different matter here. You can definitely put these into your methodology or when you construct a color wheel that you want to use in this case. Now, when you look at a traditional color wheel, you'll see like the normal colors, and then you see different hues and stuff in the variations. You'll see another little demonstration here on the screen. When it comes to gloving in these color wheels, you gotta look at what is going to be able to produce these supplementary colors, as I'm going to refer to them. In this particular case, it would be tint control. So when you actually take your colors and you put it into a color wheel, and then you want to add your tints to it, you're going to put them in the middle, you know, you're going to put them in the smaller parts. That way you can really actually come up with some massively crazy color sets that you might not have ever thought of. You know, I know this may sound a little bit complicated, but trust me, once you actually start to break it down to certain parts, it makes it a lot easier. Just want to point that out. Okay, so since we got all that out of the way, we are now going to go straight into pretty much the method that you should be thinking about or trying to apply when it comes to configuring a color set with your lights. So something that I would do would definitely be taking whatever color palette of whatever chip that I was using and constructing a wheel from that. Definitely go online to find other color wheels and then try to supplant what you have in your color palette. Say maybe you have the SE Atoms or the regular Atoms like I do. Maybe you have the Apollos. Maybe you have the Chroma Controls. Maybe you have the Chroma Evos. I would say Spectre Evos, but you know, well, some people who have an iOS would be able to use the app to come up with the colors and stuff. But that is something that I would definitely suggest you try to understand, is that when it comes to a color wheel, you can definitely take whatever palette that any of your chips have, and you can actually plant them onto the color wheel. Therefore, you're able to construct the color set still using the same theory as this color wheel in color theory. That is a huge major component that I definitely want to stress. Okay, so I'm just going to use the Chroma Controls for this example. And the reason why I want to use the Chroma Controls for this example is because it has 30 colors. It's just a good, nice round number. And I think the SE Atoms has 40, but again, we're just work with me here, okay?
You're not my dad!
Thank you. So you're taking all of your colors, and you place them all on the wheel. You added all the tint variations, so you actually have all your tint control stuff in place, because as much as tint control is much more of a different matter than when it comes to color theory, this is just something that I don't want to dismiss and say that you can't use it, because it's very clear that the color takes on a different tone when it comes to its brightness level or luminosity levels. So to completely dismiss tint control from the color theory would be, I guess, foolhardy is the word I'm going to use. I guess. I don't know. You guys tell me. Leave it down in the comments below. It's there for a reason. So we applied all of our colors. We got all the tints in place. Now you're just going to take that little triangle and you're going to place it. Here's the thing I definitely want to stress when it comes to this particular configuration. It must stay equal distance, or equidistant as it is referred to in the notes, especially when you find them online. So, in this particular case, you must maintain the equilateral triangle, that very perfect triangle. You know, every side is equally distanced, and that's how you're going to apply it. And I've seen a lot of people make a wheel, put it up on their wall, and then they take a little triangle and they turn it this way. I've even seen people who just use an online version of it and just have it all set up and they turn the wheel itself. So wherever it lands on there. Okay. A major thing I definitely want to stress though when it comes to that color wheel though, is that if you're going down into the other variations of the colors, it must equally change. So in this particular case, when it comes to gloving, it's kind of saying if you're going to use this scheme, you must use the same temp levels throughout all your colors. So if you have one that's on medium, you gotta use all of them on medium. That's just kind of how the method's going to work when it comes to gloving, because that's how our lights work. Yes, you can put on different brightness settings if that's what you want to do, but for this particular method, since it has to be equal distance, that's how it's going to work with the tint control. It has to be equal tint. It's just a method. I'm not telling you that this is the only way to do it, but when it comes to applying this particular one, this is how my rules of thumbs are going to apply. Again, you guys can tell me that my rules are stupid. I don't really care. I've heard it enough times as it is. But again, I'm drawing this stuff from what has been established in the art world collectively over history. Just trying to show you how you can take that and applying it to gloving, because that's the medium. You guys know where I'm getting with this. So there's another version of this per se, and it's not necessarily it's similar, but it doesn't work in this same fashion. So there's another version called split complementary, which is another triangle setup where you use 3 colors, but instead of being equidistant, it's the split 2 colors that are equally contrasted or complementary to the primary color that you're using. So like if you have red, then it's the 2 complementary colors that are equally distant from in terms of that primary color. Again, here's a demonstration of that. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this and talk about the differentiations of these is because that is a way to bolster a primary color, or use a primary color to bolster 2 other colors, depending on which one you go with. But the way that you just need to simply understand is that with the Triade scheme, it's equally distant, so equilateral triangle. Split complementary is isosceles triangle. So equilateral, isosceles, equilateral, isosceles, equilateral, isosceles. Do you see how that works? That's how it works. So that's what you just need to understand. And when it comes to setting it up this way, it works. I've seen plenty of different color sets work in this fashion. I've even used a couple of setups in this fashion. It's why certain configurations, like the triple C's example I used earlier, is highly sought after. You know, the cream, coral, and cyan is a huge thing, and it's granted the history of that bulb is very interesting, but it does lend credence to the color theory itself. Even though it's a bulb, you know, just for a bulb chip, not a programmable, we can still use it as a basis to operate off of. Okay, now yes, I will have another video on the split triad, and we'll definitely go into more detail on that, but I definitely wanted to stress the differences between this and that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That is all I have to say on this. I know this is relatively short, and there wasn't a whole lot of information I need to talk about, but it gives you a good building block to start from. So if you're somebody who really wants to try to come up with new colors or a new color set, just look at some schemes that people come up with. A triad scheme is one way if you want to do 3 colors. I will definitely consider working on the ones that I consider more than just 3 colors, because I know with a lot of our chips and our chip sets that we have, we can either do 6, 7, 8, 15 on some of them. Like 15 is quite a lot. Just saying.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I personally think like 8 is like the best ideal number. Not gonna get into that. But yes, that is pretty much all for my episode. I do have to thank everybody who has watched and / listened, who has been following me along so far and has been enjoying the content I'm making. I really appreciate hearing back from you guys. There's actually been a lot more vocal feedback that I've been getting from people, you know, being posted in various places on various platforms now. So It's actually really, really cool and really nice to actually see that kind of engagement. I do try to answer all those questions that anyone has. I definitely try to interact with as many comments as I can. With the amount of time that I have, man, I just don't have much time anymore. But if you have any questions for me, you have the various places you can hit me up at. You have all my social media stuff down below. You have the comment section down below as well to hit me up. It's on this episode. It's there for a reason. It makes it convenient for you. Just saying. But of course, if you guys want to help me out and help me make better content, not only does liking, sharing, and subscribing help me out, and it's all completely free on your end, but you do have the opportunity to donate to me at Ko-Fi. Yes, a one-time donation as low as $1 goes a very, very, very long way to help me out and keeps the lights on in this room. And I'm sure, as you guys can probably tell, I do have new lighting equipment. I'm so happy that my husband bought me new light equipment again. Man, does this look a hell of a lot better than it looked before. Like, I know I was using janky setups and it made it look like I have, bags under my eyes, and it looked like I was hardly ever sleeping. Trust me, I'm getting plenty of sleep. I mean, if you look now, you don't get the whole bag things. It's great. But other than that, once again, thank you everybody who has watched this, listened, who is supporting me in any way, shape, or form as possible. It's really great. Thank you guys so much. But I am your host, Peter, aka LPD Buke, and I'll see you guys all next week.